Good to go.
All right. I'm Austin Appleby. I'm sitting here with Dan Shields, co-founder of Aproflow. Thanks, Dan, for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So, we're just going to go over a little bit about what you've done in the space, from, the origin of your career to this most recent ETHBoston event. So, how long have you been in the blockchain space?
So I'd say it's been probably about 2 years now. I've been pretty dedicated to this. And since roughly the beginning of 2017 is really when I've started to jump down the rabbit hole more exclusively. It's really become all that I've been doing. So a little bit more than 2 years I've been aware of it, and probably 2 years is like so far has been my job.
Mm-hmm. Okay, cool. So I understand you graduated from Colorado School of Mines with a degree in applied physics and engineering. So how did you discover blockchain? And is there anything that you learned during your career, or during your degree that gave you early confidence in blockchain technology?
Yeah, ironically, no. My degree was completely separate from any exploration or understanding of blockchain. So my old life, so to speak, was in engineering and physics. So I was working towards a PhD at Mines and was about 5 years into it at this point. So my thesis was done and, well, it wasn't done, it was almost done. All my classwork was done, my analysis was mostly done. But what I was finding in my personal and professional life, I was just so isolated and didn't like it at all. Mm-hmm. So this is kind of what was the inspiration for me to decide to leave that. So I actually dropped out of the program. And in discovering what I wanted to really do with my life beyond that, I wandered into personal finance and just general entrepreneurial principles, and blockchain piqued my interest on that journey. So it was kind of out of the blue. So actually the thing that really, my discovery was more about oh, Bitcoin, you can trade this stuff, that's cool. And then the technical background, the linkage there was blockchain, the technology itself that drives all this. That was really cool. As a system, it is just really beautiful to understand some of the dynamics that are going on. But the thing that really lit me up, the thing that more than anything I'm bullish on, is the community all around this stuff. Mm-hmm. So that's what I found a little bit more than 2 years ago was Denver Bitcoin and Crypto, which is now the group I run, Denver Blockchain, was there with Jonathan and Tree. So hey guys, if you're watching, we started that up together and really tried to get people involved in the currency side, and then moved much more into understanding the technology. Mm-hmm. So that was been my journey, was the people around here. I want to be an evangelist and bring us in the right space, because even if let's say quantum computers blow up blockchain and all of basically we understand cryptocurrency to be, the people being together, really we have this culture and ethos. It's we want to make a better world and use tech to enable that. So that's what I'm all about.
So that group that you were just mentioning, the Denver Blockchain, it has over 1,000 members on meetup now.
Yeah.
And it's got a fairly sizable Slack channel as well. Do you find that to be a more or less successful medium at evangelizing than these big ETH events like ETHDenver and ETHBoston?
Mm-hmm. It's very different. So I think that Denver Blockchain in my mind is pretty much like the welcome wagon for the community, because we have so much going on here. There's over 10 different meetups here for different things that are going on. And so Denver Blockchain in particular runs weekly out of enterprise co-working that we're at here today. Mm-hmm. So that really it's more casual. It's just to let people who are curious about the technology from whatever they're coming at. So this is for people who are interested in just speculative and trading investment side of stuff. Maybe they're curious about development. They've heard about blockchain technology or Ethereum or something like that. Maybe they don't care about anything, they just heard the term,
Yeah.
And so that's really what I think this group is about and for. Whereas opposed to ETHDenver, right, these big hackathons are totally about the blockchain tech. Let's develop stuff. And it's a welcome wagon, but it's a different perspective. It's not just for the general crowd, and it's a much more intense experience, right? As opposed to just, let's get together and chat. You've got 72 hours to not sleep and to, It's just different.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. I've been to a few of your events with Denver Blockchain, and I've noticed there's a fairly large community of people that are very interested in the finance slash economics side of blockchain. So you're saying that ETH events are typically more or more attended more commonly by developers and people evangelizing developers. Interesting. So how have you seen the community change since ETHDenver last year?
So last year, all the way to this year now, we're about 8 months down the road. I'd say that what I have seen, basically the progression, my whole 2-year experience so far, was a huge hype wave that is now kind of tumbled down in terms of both the price for cryptocurrencies that we've seen and general interest has basically come to what I see as a bottom maybe a little bit ago. So what I think ETHDenver 2018 was some of the last big push, and we've seen kind of a decay, but now I definitely am becoming more alarmist. There's more people who are more interested in this stuff for technical reasons, much more than about price or anything else. We see that at a corporate level, at an enterprise level, people are getting more serious about blockchain products. And then from the community, from the grassroots level, I see the meetup is starting to pick up again. People's general curiosity is picking up quite a lot. So if anything, what I've seen is now a resurgence in the community in general. And more new people are coming, which is great to see.
Yeah, no, that is. I've noticed that as well. I mean, I am one of those people. I was, not necessarily in the space before quite recently. So what about looking back even further? Since you started in this space, what has been what has been the most exciting application of this technology that you've seen personally?
So I think that we're still seeing a lot of things being developed, but one of the most critical things that I think is coming around right now that's just blossoming is decentralized finance, so DeFi. And so that caters to basically everybody. Anybody who's interested in the speculative side, they want to use the tools. Anybody who's on the development side is really curious about how to make this stuff work, technically speaking. And the other thing is just generally people like economists and people who are thinking about legal frameworks, this is where they want to dive into. So the emergence of all these different now basically self-sovereign tools to be able to non-custodially work in traditional finance and expand beyond traditional finance at a level we haven't seen before, totally cool.
I agree.
If anything, that's one of the things I'm most excited about. The other thing is generally talking DAOs. I think we're seeing a re-emergence of the DAO, right, was originally hacked and basically blew up the idea of what DAOs, it put basically a negative impression as to what it could be because of technical errors, right? Well, now we're seeing these start to come back and enforce. And this is all about how do we basically govern people with smart contracts, right?
Absolutely.
And, so I guess in my mind, I am obviously a little bit more familiar with Ethereum, and this is some of the two biggest things that are happening right now that I've seen basically progress over this past year.
Yeah. That's interesting. I mean, you often get a cycle like that with any new technology. Is this hype, and then there's a big event that may discourage people, and then it eventually comes back stronger than ever before. What do you see as the biggest obstacle to blockchain adoption from the developing side?
Yeah, biggest obstacle. Right now, I'd say that a lot of the developer tools are just poor. Developer tools and documentation, that's changing. So when I was first getting into the space and I was curious about it, at least again in the Ethereum space is what I'm mostly exposed to, it's just the docs were bad, things failed all the time, and there was no good support or ways to track things down, and a lot of bugs. So it's getting more polished, but as a developer, it's still hard to really sink your teeth into. For instance, if you're a React developer, right, you can just pull down a repo and plug and play, install, you're done. And now you're starting to work. Where the similar constructs don't necessarily exist, at least not at the same robustness. But that's changing. The other thing is, and maybe this is a little pitch to talk a little about your company, is the infrastructure needs, right, are vastly different. Because at this point, blockchain as a service, right, is really desperately needed in my mind. Is I don't want to have to configure and set up all my own node infrastructure, or if I do, it's very difficult to manage. So this is a critical need and something that you guys definitely, I hope, can address.
Yeah, and we're working on that right now. Our beta should be out in a few weeks, if not a few months. Probably should have said a few months. Okay, well, yeah, that's great to hear. And you know, if there was an available plug and play option for developing upon blockchain, how much do you think that would influence the rate of development?
So I think the rate of development of the applications themselves isn't necessarily going to be super influenced by having this infrastructure, but scaling those applications, going from proof of concept to something that actually makes sense, then yes, it's absolutely needed. Most of the things that we see out of like these hackathons at ETHDenver and stuff, proof of concept stage. And almost all across the space, that's what I see. The applications that are going to get widespread consumer adoption really aren't there yet, in my mind. DeFi, I think, is going to start to really be some of these first movers that actually need to scale. And hopefully things like second layer solutions, especially in the Ethereum ecosystem again, are really going to become developed enough to allow for that bandwidth. But you need all that infrastructure available and ready to go. And right now that's just not there. So yes, like in the near-ish future, years, definitely need it.
So, you know, moving forward and just to conclude, you are currently working with Aproflow. And that's something that I've, you know, been wondering and been meaning to ask you about. So, you know, I'd like for you to tell everybody a little bit more about Aproflow, what you're doing with them right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So Aproflow, I don't know if you've heard the term apropos. So it's very opportune, and in the moment it's a good thing to do.
Okay.
So apropos is Aproflow is an apropos flow, and making basically the inspiration is like ETHDenver. Other hackathons are fantastic, but they're just way too much packed in time. Right? Is you got to network, you got to learn stuff, and you got to build stuff, all in the course of like 72 hours. Go. Yeah. You know, and what I think we see is that one of the most valuable aspects of the hackathon is, well, networking and connections, but also the real inspiration to get a sprint together, like to make something work. But all that learning at the very least should be pulled out of this, right? And hopefully we can get some of that project ideation and networking done outside of this time box as well. So Aproflow is really trying to address this. So we're partnering with universities at the moment that already are teaching core skills. So this is like blockchain, for instance, comp-sci departments that are teaching about like Solidity development, for instance, as well as business. So we're talking about how do we do things like decentralized business models in general, or legal frameworks, right? What kind of regulatory structures we need to think about. So those classes are starting to be developed at universities. We want to come in with Aproflow and partner with these guys to be a bolt-on or an addition. So I run a bunch of these meetups, right? This is a great place to bring in thought leaders into effectively an extracurricular activity for these classes. So go and learn the stuff in school that you need so you can succeed in your career, but these mentors now can teach you about the soft skills and the design skills that you aren't going to get in class. So it's now getting you connected to those industry leaders, and hopefully this is going to naturally evolve into some apprenticeship and mentorship like programs. So the flow here is learn about the stuff, get inspired, and hopefully have this inception point, meaning that you come up with a really cool idea and you vet it. So something like a startup weekend. I don't know if you've been involved in one of these. It's just come together and think about something that worked, come up with a pitch. Like what's your great idea, and make it stick. Give us a reason to think it's gonna actually work. And work along this mentorship flow now to a sprint, like a hackathon like ETHDenver. And from there, make something cool, but it needs a lot of polish. Keep polishing it, and at the end of this flow, we think is like a science fair meets job fair. So this is really like show off what you did, show off who you are, what you've learned, and hopefully get yourselves right into a job immediately out of college. Or maybe this is a cool enough project, we should get you in with crowdfunding or VCs or angels or something.
Yeah.
Let's make a company. So all of this flow really focuses then towards creating opportunities in the space. And blockchain in Colorado is the apropos thing to do right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
But Aproflow really is about emergent industries anywhere, right? It's going to be creating opportunities. And so the subtext to this is blurring the lines between earning, learning, and living. Because that's basically, we want to unbox what you're doing at the university and immediately get you shoved right into your life.
That's a super modern idea. That's what everybody's doing right now, and that's super interesting. I have been coming to your meetup groups recently, and I've learned so much, and I've had a great time doing it. So that's great to hear. It's super exciting that you've got that going on. So coming up in Denver, we have Biddle Week, which is going to be right here at Enterprise, right?
Yes, sir.
Week of the 11th, February 11th, and then right after that.
Yeah, ETHDenver 2020. That's going to be awesome.
Yeah.
So you can be our Valentine. We kick off February 14th and go through the 17th. It's going to be a great time. And there's so much more going on in general. So the best place to go to find out what's going on in general in the Colorado community is definitely our Slack group. So if you go to launchpass.com/Colorado Blockchain, you can get a link to join our Slack group. Say hi to me, I'm Dan Shields. Direct message me and we'll get you all connected. We have an events feed there that's up to date with stuff that's going on in the moment. And very soon we'll have an established calendar of events that you're able to go check out. If you like, cryptorado.org is something that's now just starting to get some polish on it. And so you can go check that out. It's Cryptorado, as in Colorado, but with crypto. Yeah.
We'll throw both of those links in the description of the video. So come meet us at ETHDenver 2020.
It's going to be fun. See you soon.
All right.